Hey there, Ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to yet another Cutter Top 10 video. And today we're looking at the NBA. And today we're going to be looking at the top 10 NBA Conference Finals upsets of all time. The Conference Finals are like the Final Four in basketball. And to do that, you gotta have some guts and some glory and all that. As there have been some great NBA upsets and all that. So we're going to be taking a good look at some upsets from the past. And hopefully we get everything working out correctly here. As I, of course, am taking a look at my notes, making sure I didn't miss any conference final upsets, and I don't think I have. Yeah, so, yeah. There is going to be one that will be a Final Four, if you will, before the conference finals thing. So it was done in the 70s in the NBA, but still, it's an upset nevertheless. Here we go. Number 10 is the Dallas Mavericks over the Phoenix Suns, which is actually shocking because there were some players who played for both Dallas and Phoenix in their careers, especially Steve Nash, who was named MVP of the 2006 season. And I believe the one that he didn't deserve, as they thought that Shaq or Kobe should have had it. But anyway, Dallas and Phoenix were battling each other. Phoenix, was this the year they had to fight off the Lakers in that 3-1 comeback or something? When Kobe had that bucket beater. So anyway, the fact is that, Phoenix had Steve Nash and Dallas had Dirk Nowitzki. And Nowitzki would help out Dallas winning in 6 games, getting them to the NBA Finals, which they fell to Shaq and the Miami Heat in 6. It was actually amazing and all that. I know, speaking of like the Lakers and Kobe and all that, a lot of people probably think 2002 when the Lakers took out the Kings was a massive upset. It was an upset in a sense because Sacramento had home court for Game 7 of the conference finals. Of course, Game 6 was controversial with all those missed calls. But the fact is that, the Lakers are the Lakers, so what do you expect? Number 9 is the 95 Orlando Magic against Indiana. 95 was huge and all that. MJ came back in March, helped Chicago out. Could have given the Bulls a big win over the Magic in the playoffs. But for the first time since 1990, MJ lost the playoff series. Of course, the Bulls in 94 lost to the Knicks in the second round. Orlando and Indy were fighting it out. Reggie Miller and his Pacers beat the Knicks in the conference semifinals, which was huge, including that 8-point performance in 17 seconds in Game 1. Orlando beat Chicago. They had Shaq and Penny. They had a great twosome, twosome, if you will. The Pacers won Game 4 on a massive buzzer beater by none other than Rick Schmitz. And then the Magic won Game 7 against the Pacers to win the conference title. And anyway, it was a talent gap in Orlando. Shockingly, this was only Shaq's 3rd season. Beating the Pacers. So, anyway, Orlando would go on to lose to the Rockets in the finals. Number 8 is Cleveland over Detroit 2007. Detroit owned the 2000s when it came to conference stuff and all that. 2004, they went to the finals thanks to their bad boy image. And then 2005, they got to the finals but lost to San Antonio. 2006, they fell. I can't remember who they beat. But Cleveland taking care of Detroit was just amazing and all that. LeBron was a superstar. Cleveland did not have a good team around him. That's the problem. But, LeBron had a Game 5 performance for the ages. Cleveland took care of Detroit. And it was basically the changing of the guard. Detroit started to falter. Cleveland started to pick up speed. Cleveland would take on San Antonio in the finals and got swept. Wait. Okay, number 7 is the 2009 Magic against Cleveland. It's funny how Orlando and Cleveland were numbers 9 and 8, but now one of them had moved on in 2007. So Cleveland had LeBron, 66 wins, well, Route 66, 2 years out of the finals, and they were looking to go back to their second finals in 3 years. Orlando had their job. Dwight Howard being the center instead of Shaq, and the Magic shooting, which replaced Penny Hardaway. And the Magic took care of Cleveland. Although LeBron in Game 2 had that famous buzzer beater, and the viral video of the Cleveland TV studio talking about it and all that. But then the sports guy, well, it was just the shot was just before the end of the newscast. He says, "Cavs win, Cavs win," and he seemingly climbs over one of the co-anchors. But Orlando won that series in 6. They fell to the Lakers and LeBron. Oh, sorry, Kobe. Number 6 is the Suns of 1990 against the Lakers. So, anyway, the Lakers were, the freaking Lakers. They looked pretty good, Showtime era and all that. The 1980s, they had a great decade. In 1989, they got swept by the Pistons, and they lost Abdul-Jabbar to retirement. So, it was Magic's team, kind of, with James Worthy and Michael Cooper and AC Green. The Lakers had been to the finals 7 of the previous 8 seasons. Keep that in mind, in 1990. And they won again as the Suns had a chance. But the Lakers, it was Portland against the Lakers. My stats are wrong. Yes, Portland took care of the Lakers. I mean, to upset the apple cart, if you will. Yeah, 7 of the previous 8 years. But yeah, it was Portland who did their job getting to the NBA Finals. And then, just like everyone else on this list, they ended up losing the final to Detroit as they won back-to-back and finishing the Microwave Johnson with the winning shot in Game 5. But the Lakers would be back the next year, so it wasn't that bad. Number 5 is the Knicks versus the Celtics, 1973. The Celtics had a 68-win season. Boston were big and all that. They looked pretty good, the class of the league. They would have to face their old rivals, the New York Knicks. New York and Boston always having the great rivalries. Baseball, it's the Yankees, Red Sox, and partially Mets, Red Sox. Football, you have the Jets versus the Patriots, or the Giants versus the Patriots, if you will. In basketball, you had the Knicks, Celtics. In hockey, you had the Rangers and Bruins. And definitely not Islanders, Bruins. Anyway, the Celtics did their job and thought they had it, but the Knicks beat them in Game 7 in the Garden, Boston Garden. It was a massive upset because the Knicks went on to the finals, and unlike every other team on this list that I started with, the Knicks actually won the NBA title. They're second against the LA Lakers. And that's the last time the Knicks have won the championship. But don't whine, Knicks fans. I mean, your playoff drought is big, and it could end. As of this video, of course, the conference finals are just about to start in the NBA, and the Knicks are in the NBA finals in the Eastern. But yeah, 53 years and counting. Number 4 is 1981 with the Houston Rockets against the Kansas City Kings. Yeah, it doesn't seem like an upset because if you look at the records of those two teams in 1981, Houston and Kansas City, you would actually find out that they both were porous and all that. But the simple fact that the Kansas City Kings, and you're thinking Kansas City had an NBA team, they actually did. Did you not know that? I don't blame you. Kansas City actually was the home of the Kings before Sacramento. So the Kings went from Rochester to Cincy to Kansas City - Omaha. They had some games in Omaha. I kid you not. Then went to Kansas City. Kansas City had the basketball team. They took on the Houston Rockets in 1981. Both teams were not really supposed to be there. It was supposed to be the Lakers or some other franchise like Phoenix. But no, it was the Heat. It was the Rockets and the Suns taking each other on. Sorry, the Rockets and Kings. Houston would go on to win the conference final and then lose to Boston. So yeah, it wasn't really upset by record. It was an upset the fact that Houston and Kansas City were not really supposed to be there. I think they were the 6th and 7th seeds in the West. I can't remember. And Kansas City would lose their team 4 years later. What killed the Kansas City Kings and moved them to Sacramento? Indoor freaking soccer. Kid you not. It's funny. Okay, number 3 is the Heat of 2023 against the Celtics. So, Miami and Boston were battling it out. Miami were an 8 seed. They took out the 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then they ended up winning their second round series. They had to face Boston, the 2 seed, and it was impossible to think that Boston was not going to get to the NBA Finals for the second straight year. They went in 2022 and fell to those pesky Warriors. Boston was massively heavily favored, and then Miami took a 3-0 series lead, and it was like, what the hell? So Boston would have to do a massive comeback, one for the ages, never done in the NBA, comeback for the reverse sweep. In game 6, it looked like Miami was going to win on home turf, but Derek White got the ball off just before the buzzer, and the bucket was counted good. And in Boston, looked like they were going to have momentum for game 7. No. Uh, Boston ended up losing game 7 at home to Miami, and that was all there was to it. The 2023 Heat were going to the NBA Finals, but normalcy happened as they ended up losing to, I like to say, the Nuggets. I think it was the Nuggets, right? Yeah, because the Celtics won in 24 and the Thunder are the defending champs as of this taping. So, yeah, the Celtics ended up losing the championship. Miami ended up losing the championship to Denver and Jamal Murray. Catch it. Anyway, number 2 is the 1967 Eastern Finals between Philadelphia and Boston. You're thinking we're going way back, way back. If you know your NBA history, you know Boston. In 1958, they lost. Was it? They lost? Yeah, they lost the finals in 1958 to the Hawks. In 1959, they won, and then every year till 1966, they were the champs. Yes, I know there was like only 10 or 11 teams in the NBA and all that, but the NHL had 6 teams, and they didn't have someone win 8 straight titles. The record is 5. But anyway, the Celtics were preparing to nine-peat, if you will. But the Sixers with Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain produced and shocked the Celtics and made sure for the first time in 9 years, when they did in 1967, that there would be a new NBA champion, and it would be the Philadelphia 76ers who would be the NBA champs, taking care of business and all that. Or was it the Philly Warriors? No, they moved out west. The Sixers would end up trading Wilt the Stilt to Los Angeles the year after. And number 1 is an upset that was punctuated by buzzer beater. 1986, Houston versus LA. The Lakers were Showtime. They were 1985 champs. They finally got over the hump, beating Boston in the NBA Finals. That had never happened in franchise history. The Lakers finally beat the Celtics and won. Despite losing game 1 in what they called the Memorial Day Massacre, the Lakers stuck fast and took care of those pesky Celtics. So 1986, it was supposed to be the same stuff, and then all of a sudden you got yourself the fact that, I mean, Houston were a ragtag team. They did have Rob Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon, the Twin Towers, before, but it was cool to say that. Um, they had some ragtag people and all that, and it was just amazing. But yeah, Houston ended up beating the Lakers thanks to a Game 5 shot. Hakeem Olajuwon fouled out, and then Houston had 1 second left to make a bucket. If they missed the bucket, no problem. They would have gone to game 6 back in Houston. But Ralph Sampson got the ball, volleyballed it over Michael Cooper's head, and it bounced once in the rim and into the net. And for some strange reason, you know, it was good. Houston beat the Lakers. Michael Cooper, number 21, laying down on his back, just with his head in his hands. It was like, what the hell just happened? And the Lakers were going to be eliminated from the playoffs by the Houston Rockets. But like the majority of these teams on the list, they actually lost the final. They ended up losing to Boston because Boston just was unbeatable at home. So the Boston Celtics were the champs. And Houston's thing Can't be understated, especially their two 1980s performances being on this list. Very good. Anyhow, Jeff, I'm going to do